The Sonyverse is dead. D-E-A-D. Dead, gone, no more. And thank God, because I just watched Kraven and I truly do not know how many more of these movies I can watch. I just don't know. I don't know how many more I have left in me. Why does God give us Spider-Man fans his toughest battles? What do we even do to deserve this abomination of a universe? Can we even call this one universe? They didn't even interact with each other. They interacted more with the MCU than they did with their own universe. Sure, Venom was fun and its subsequent sequels are enjoyable. I like them. But make no mistake, this entire universe is garbo. Morbius is horrible. Madam Web, horrible. And now Kraven put the nail in the coffin to complete the horrible three-peat and send this universe packing. No more. We don't gotta do it anymore. Thank you, Kraven. I gotta give you love for that alone, and that's it. Thank you. No more Sonyverse. Oh, you don't believe me? You don't believe Kraven was that bad? All right, I'll give you guys a review of Kraven. Let's talk about Kraven a little bit, okay? So, Kraven. Kraven is the movie I just finished watching in the theaters about less than an hour ago now. So this is gonna be very new, raw, and fresh, okay? Right off the dome and how I'm feeling in the moment, okay? I did not like this movie in the slightest. I actually thought some things were decent, like the action scenes because it's rated R, but even those I thought were kind of buns. I mean, if you're gonna do a rated R movie, I feel like you should go hard with it, right? You should have some blood, some gore, a lot of strong language, and maybe even some sex, honestly. Maybe some sex too, if we're gonna be real with ourselves. It's rated R, why not? So for them to make this movie rated R, and it almost just feels like it was a rated T movie that accidentally got slapped with the rated R, and then they had to just stick with it because they couldn't go back and do reshoots. It's kind of lame. Like, that's your main selling point for this movie, and you're not even doing that well, or even trying to do it at all for the most part. But then you go from there, right? Aside from just the fact that it's rated R, and yet it doesn't feel like it needs to be rated R. It's just like a random, another one of these movies Sony does. But the writing in the movie is terrible. Like most of the Sony movies in the Sonyverse, this movie has nothing to actually do with the Kraven you know of and you like from your childhood. From your experience with Spider-Man, that Kraven that you know you're thinking of, whether it be the 90s Kraven, Spectacular Spider-Man Kraven, Marvel Spider-Man 2's Kraven, that guy freaking rocked. Kraven Last Hunt in the comic book, the OG, the original 616 Kraven, this is not like any of them. This guy, he's a good guy anti-hero. What he does is he goes around hunting all the bad people in the world, okay? And he does so because he just doesn't think the world needs them, you know? The world, he says it himself, if I'm not mistaken, there's justice that needs to be done, and that can't be done within the court of law. And he thinks it's upon him to take the justice into his own hands. That's not Kraven at all. Like, at all. And like how he comes to be Kraven is like he gets mauled by a lion. I'm not gonna lie, that part was pretty raw. And it's not raw in the sense of like, oh, this is pretty cool. It's like, damn, Sony's just gonna kill people like this. This is pretty crazy. I like this. But then they decided not to go with the rated R stuff anymore. So whatever. But yeah, like I was saying, Kraven's getting mauled by this lion, okay? The lion drags him off, and then this random London British girl finds him with this mystical juice she was just given by her grandmother, and she pours it into his mouth, and apparently there was some blood from the lion that dropped into his body, and now his body's fused with like this lion DNA blood aura, and it's like sun god stuff. It's just, what? What is this? What are we doing here? What are we rewriting the circle, the script, the wheel? What are we doing here? It's Kraven. It's not that hard. He hunts people. He hunts animals. This guy doesn't even hunt animals in the movie. He's a complete animal pacifist when it comes to that stuff. And that's cool, but that ain't Kraven. That's not Kraven at all. That doesn't make any sense. What are we talking about here? What are we actually doing right now that we're trying to disguise this as an actual Kraven movie when this is not what Kraven is? If you've read anything about 616 Kraven or know anything at all, you know that he's a bad guy. Like, he is a bad guy. He's not a good guy. And if you want to portray it as him as like a good guy under certain circumstances, I think it can even work, right? Because I don't think Kraven sees himself as a good guy or a bad guy. I think he sees himself as his own thing. He wants to be, we're talking about the actual Kraven, he wants to be the best hunter and prove he's the apex predator essentially alive. Like, that's his thing, okay? That's why we get Kraven's Last Hunt in the first place. Because he believes Spider-Man's peak. So he can defeat Spider-Man, dress up like Spider-Man, and protect the city like Spider-Man, or how he thinks Spider-Man should be protecting the city. He proves that he is the apex predator, okay? But now if you had this with a villain in the role of Spider-Man, like let's say the city or everything was run by like an evil like Kingpin, not Kingpin himself. Let's say it's like Green Goblins ruling over New York City, okay? And then Kraven's like, ooh, I heard stories of this goblin being so strong. I must take him down to prove I'm the apex hunter. Like that could even work, honestly, to say that it's like a good guy Kraven. He's not really a good guy, because in his eyes, he's just doing what proves he's the best hunter. He's not really a bad guy either, because he's just doing, again, what proves he's the best hunter. He actually is a bad guy in reality, but he doesn't think so. So if they were to do it like this to show that he's a good guy, I think that could even work in a movie script. How they did it was horrific, though. It's nothing like this in anything. Like this is just not Kraven. And then you go even further into the movie, and the movie actually tries to tell you that, right? The movie's like, actually, quick switch up. It's the very end. Let's hit him with it. This isn't Kraven. Kraven's not actually a good guy. And you're like, oh, really? And I know what you're thinking right now. How did that happen? How did they actually get to that point? Oh, well, remember how I told you Kraven was just murdering all of the villainous drug lord gangsters in the world, who are literal people who would kill children. People who have openly admitted on camera, on canon in this movie, that they would kill children given the opportunity. Kraven was murdering these people, okay? And his father at the very end, right before we go to this scene, is murdered by a bear, actually, okay? Because Kraven had taken the shotgun shells out of the shotguns nearby, and he knew the bear was nearby, and he wanted the bear to kill his dad, so the bear mauls his dad. Kraven leaves. Flash forward a year ahead. It's Kraven and his brother Dimitri. They're hanging out. Good times. Dimitri's finally gets to be chilling, you know what I'm saying? He no longer is held captive. Nothing bad happened to him. He's out of the gang stuff. It's chill. It's nice. He has his own bar. He's a singer. It's cool. And then it continues, and apparently Dimitri is still into this gang stuff, and he actually, instead of getting out of it like Kraven thought he was, he actually just got deeper into it and is now essentially what his dad was to the villain and criminal world. A little absurd. And then Kraven's like, I don't want you doing this. You shouldn't be doing this. Like, I pulled you out of this. And then Kraven's like, what are you talking? I mean, and his brother Dimitri's like, what are you talking about, dude? This is you. This is who you are. You're just like dad. You think you're better than dad and like you're above dad and like you got this moral code, but you're just like dad. You are exactly like him. And then Kraven like starts to think, he's like, whoa, like what is he talking about? And like maybe he's getting a little mad standoffish, but you could also see there's some understanding in this too. Because then his brother Dimitri's even like, how about you go home? Dad left something for you. Kraven returns home and there's a letter there, and it's like from Kraven's dad. He's like, yes, you and I, we are the same. You are me and I am you. You will continue my legacy and we will be the greatest hunter, yada, yada, yada. Then he puts on the garments that are actually like the actual accurate comics garment, or closer to it than when he was wearing the entire movie. And that's how the movie ends. So I guess you're left with there thinking like Kraven's come to a realization that he's actually not a good person. He's actually evil, and like he's just like his father, when it's like, that's not true. Yeah, he could be evil, right? He's a mass murderer. He's murdering all these people. But he does have a moral code. We saw it throughout the movie. He didn't kill a single child or woman or anybody who was not involved in this stuff. He was very protective of actually everybody who was not involved in this stuff. He very much so did have a moral code. And who was he killing? He was killing very evil, deplorable people. Kraven's father, on the other hand, was just an evil, deplorable person willing to kill anyone who got in his way to prove that he was the ultimate person to champion the legend of the world or whatever, or like the hero. He wants to be a legend in his eyes in the movie. If you see it, you get it. So then you get all this, you take into account, and it's like, this ending could have been actually really good had Kraven be evil throughout the entire time but not notice it. You know what I'm saying? If he was just so focused on trying to do his mission, he didn't realize he was hurting very good, innocent people. That'd be fun. That'd be not fun, but you know what I mean? That'd be big for an interesting story, and it would make sense at the very end when Kraven's like, holy moly, I'm no better than my father. But that's not what happened. The movie does not portray it like that at all. We saw Kraven's early life. We see Kraven grow up more. We see Kraven hunting down bad people. We see him as the anti-hero he is throughout the movie. He's not an actual bad guy. So this whole conversation he has with his brother here, where his brother's like making him woke or privy to the situation, it's like, this actually isn't true. Like, this is just completely false. I don't understand how this movie's running under this notion that this is true. So yeah, that was just ass, honestly. I'm watching this whole movie this whole time, not seeing Kraven. He's doing superhero stuff, and at the very end, his brother's like, you are evil, and then he's like, I am evil. It's like, this is terrible. Oh my God, we also have to talk about the Rhino in Kraven. Oh, so if y'all are any fans of this channel at all, you know I love the Rhino. He's one of my all-time favorite Spider-Man villains. It's not even close. I just think he's so cool when you think about the fact that he's a tragic character. He's also a really sad character, but everybody only knows him as this big, strong, brawn character. There's just so much more deeper to him, so many more layers than you're actually getting with Rhino, Alexei Sitsevich, than what's on the surface. If you know any like casual Spider-Man fans, they think this character is a big dumb idiot, and then like he is, but there's just so much more to him than that. So like for me, finding out that Rhino is going to be in this movie, I was honestly just immediately nervous, because I know Sony has never done really anything right or good with Spider-Man or Spider-Man's adjacent characters since they fired Andrew Garfield. I was 100% right to be nervous, because this Rhino fucking sucks. What? First off, the fact that Alexei Sitsevich is like this stammering loser dweeb nerd gangster who like runs, I guess, a group of gangs and like stuff. But he's also, like I said, he's a big dweeb nerd, and he wants to get stronger and powerful so he can prove he's not a big, strong, geeky nerd. And that's why he becomes a Rhino. So stupid. It's not what a Rhino becomes a Rhino. The Rhino becomes a Rhino just because he wants to be big and stronger. He's just an idiot. You know what I'm saying? What adds layers of depth to the tragedy of it is he doesn't realize how tragic what he's doing is going to become. He's just a regular, everyday man who's doing something that's going to change his life drastically. And in the moment, he's not even thinking about that. He's not thinking about the fact that he can never get rid of the suit for the rest of his life. He's thinking about the fact that he just wants to be stronger. And I believe at the time he wanted to pummel the Hulk, if I'm not mistaken. And then you look at this movie's version of the Rhino, and it's, like I said, this big, stinking nerd who, like, wants to be more powerful and prove that he shouldn't be underestimated and, like, he shouldn't be, like, picked on or whatever. So he becomes the Rhino. And then, like, he's also not trapped in a suit. It's, like, growing out of him. And, like, they kind of hint at the fact that now he's going to be stuck with the fact that he's got Rhino skin, but he takes, like, these drugs constantly all day long so he doesn't actually look like the Rhino. So it's not the Rhino. He's not actually suffering like the Rhino suffers. The Rhino can't just walk down the street as a regular dude with a backpack on. That's not how Lexi Sitzevich works in 616. Dude is trapped in this motherfucking suit forever. Rip. Like, that's it. That's the end of the discussion. So, like, when I got to watch Kraven and I saw this Rhino, I'm telling you right now, I was sitting in my chair. I'm sitting there. I'm relaxed. I'm chilling. And then this guy comes on the screen who looks like the former coach for the Washington Commanders. Is, like, talking about how he is, like, his name is Lexi Sitzevich. And I immediately perk up. I'm like, Lexi Sitzevich? I know that name before. That's, the Rhino. Oh no. And oh no, it was so bad. Why did I come here? What am I doing here? And then, like, you take stock into everything you've seen in this entire universe, and you're like, why does this universe continuously try to set up stuff as if they're gonna put a Spider-Man in here? And they never will. We've recently learned that Sony never actually was told they shouldn't be or allowed to use Peter Parker Spider-Man or any Spider-Man in any of these movies. They could have had Peter Parker Spider-Man Tom Holland in these movies, but they felt like fans would never accept it, so they chose never to add Spider-Man in. Are you serious? Fans aren't accepting this garbage universe in the first place because there's no Spider-Man off rip. At least put in a Spider-Man that you guys think is false, and then we could actually run with it, and we'll decide if we think he's false or not. Like, what is this notion that fans aren't going to run with Spider-Man in a Spider-Man universe? What the fuck is that? That makes no sense. I can't believe that this is what they're talking about, or this is what they're saying. We'll start with Kraven, right? You look at the movie, it ends with Kraven being evil. Okay, that's pretty cool, because then Spider-Man could have fought Kraven. As well as we actually get to see a freaking version of Chameleon with the white face and everything on screen for a little bit in the movie, which I actually thought was pretty cool. It's about like 7 seconds at most, but it was pretty cool to see. Be awesome if Spider-Man fought him on the big screen, because we're never going to probably see Spider-Man versus Chameleon. But maybe in a Spider-Man dedicated universe we could. Nope, not going to happen. All right. How did Morbius end? Oh, Vulture was brought into the universe, and Morbius and Vulture were supposed to fight Spider-Man and team up. Never happened or came to fruition. Madam Web just completely, like, failed debacle and just tried to remove itself from the playing field as if it, like, wasn't involved. But it was really supposed to be the prequel setting up for a Spider-Man in the universe that never happened. What are we doing here? Why do we keep setting up for this universe with Spider-Man that never happens when we all want Spider-Man and you're allowed to use Spider-Man, and if you put Spider-Man in these movies, you'd actually just make money? What do we... I truly can't comprehend what's going on here. I can't wrap my brain around it. What are... Like, I'm at a loss for words. You can hear it in my voice. I don't know what else to say when I'm thinking about Sony's actual decision-making when it came to this universe. It makes no sense. They fired Andrew Garfield way back when, I think in 2014? 2013? 14. Maybe 15? They fired Andrew Garfield, and ever since then, in their live-action department, have been misstep after misstep after misstep after misstep. I truly believe the one solid thing they've had is Venom 1. Venom 2 and 3 were kind of bad. I enjoyed them, but I'll be honest, they're bad. Venom 1's a good mix of a lot of fun stuff. I ain't gonna lie. But, like, what is that, a 1 out of 7 track record? That's horrific. We would never let this slide if the MCU or DC did this. We didn't let it slide when DC did this. We all flamed the hell out of them when DC was failing at first. And then they failed so hard, they just decided to start over again. We could flame Sony until the cows come home, and they just kept continuing to give us this garbage. So, again, I lastly have to say, thank the freaking Lord that the Sonyverse is dead and gone. Like, yes, it was setting up for other stuff in the future that never came to fruition, but I'm rather not seeing it. I'd rather not see it at all. I don't want to see MCU's Vulture in this universe. Why did he even get here? How did he get here? That contrivance made no sense. Did I want to see Chameleon? Yeah, he would have been cool, but I just know they would have fucked that up too, like they fucked up everything else in this universe. Madam Web was a travesty. They didn't even take a gander at a single comic book she's ever been in. You can't convince me that they did, even though they said they did. This has nothing to do with with Spider-Man. What are we doing here with this universe? There's many reports out there about various things going on about how Sony really wants to take a serious stab at a Spider-Man universe and actually try now, which is absurd because they had all this time to try in the first place. And there's also rumors out there that Sony wants to sell the rights back to Marvel and just call it a day and make their change. I don't know what's going to happen. I truly don't. I don't think anybody should believe any of these rumors, though. All of them are just rumors at the end of the day. We don't know what's going to happen. They could even continue the Sonyverse for all we know, and then Kraven's fighting Null, and then I'm putting a freaking 12-gauge shotgun to the freaking back of my mouth and pulling a trigger. Like, because at this point, I can't do it anymore if they are going to continue this universe. If there's one thing I could have them do, it would be to sell the rights back to Marvel. But I don't even trust Marvel either. But I'd rather Marvel at least be like have their own hand on the decision. I think it's cool that DC gets their own hand on all their decisions, and I think Marvel should be able to do that as well. I know why Marvel can't. Marvel went under in the 90s, and they had to sell a lot of their products just to stay afloat. You don't gotta explain the whole situation to me, guys. If you're gonna go in the comments and do that, please don't. But what you should do is tell me exactly in the comments what you think about the Sonyverse. How would you rank the Sonyverse? Did you think any of it was good? Because for me personally, I think I've made it very clear how I feel about the Sonyverse. Maybe one day I'll make a video just describing like my top tier list for enjoyability for the Sonyverse, because we all know none of the movies are good. Like, I would never talk about how good these movies are, but maybe I could talk about how fun they are in a tier list ranking system. If you guys want to see that, let me know down below. Please check out the Patreon. I've been going hard. I've been trying my best. We got some supporters on there, so, you know, you can be one of them. You can be one of these very nice people here, supporting me, helping me create more banger videos for you guys. So think about it. Think about it. If you got the means, why not support? I think that's just about me in this video, though. I will catch y'all on the flip side. Dunk out. Peace.